(7:39), you're watching GTV Breakfast, 25th of February 2025. And talking of numbers, here are the Rand Lottery winning numbers: 69, 39, 34, 15, and 95. 69, 69, 39, 39, 34, 34, 15, 15, and 95, 95. Rand Lottery winning numbers. Good morning, welcome to the show. My guests are Sir John Kukujani, he's a forensic psychiatry specialist, and Professor Daniel Bruce, who is a clinical psychologist. Gentlemen, good morning, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning.
Top of the mind on my mind this morning has to do with addiction matters, because there's some opioid craze that is going through Ghana. There was a documentary that was aired on the BBC recently. We'll play you a little bit of it and then we'll get your thoughts on that, since you are men of the mind, and addiction is something that nobody wants to get ensnared with. So this is the opioid drug addiction issue that is sweeping across West Africa, and Ghana is touched by it. Take a look.
Illegal, addictive opioids are flooding the streets of West Africa, destroying thousands of lives and fueling a public health crisis. It's happening in Côte d'Ivoire, in Ghana, in Nigeria. But where are these pills coming from?
5 million tablets.
How are they getting into West Africa?
I think this is wickedness.
And who are the people making a killing from them?
This is very harmful for the world. But nowadays this is
I'm on my way to the Nigerian Drugs Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA. Their checkpoints have become a common sight on the streets of Lagos. In 2023, they seized opioids worth more than $100 million.
This year, all this is 225 tramadol.
Which is illegal. Tramadol is a catch-all name to describe the range of opioids used as street drugs. It's estimated more than 4 million people in Nigeria are misusing some form of opioid.
We're having a problem coming in from another country. It has become a big menace in Nigeria.
And which country is that?
India.
Yeah. In 2018, the government banned the sale of tramadol without prescription and cracked down on the import of illegal opioids. Since then, more and more are being smuggled across the borders.
These shipments came in through Ghana, through the borders. They have been tracking him for 5 months.
Would you say that the route between Ghana and Nigeria is becoming more popular in the last year or so?
Definitely, it is.
Tamale in northern Ghana has been hit hard by a recent rise in opioid use. Journalist Yaya Masahudu grew up here.
These drugs are destroying families, destroying young men and women with potential who otherwise would have been able to help in developing this country.
It's got so bad, locals have set up their own task force to track down the opioid dealers.
I'm K. And this is Chairman, Jamal, Operation Leader.
A tip-off has led them to one of the poorest neighborhoods in Tamale.
They'll be raiding the place to see if they can get some of the drugs.
Let's go.
What is happening right now is the task force is here to arrest the drug dealers. It's an addict who has taken the drugs. This is what they found here with just one drink. Yeah. This is what happens almost on a daily basis.
So turun mana on darka tadrik kala terba. So kante marsa manen nanu dulu konom la. So nom ulang kala sar bamin.
An yulma afan bo kanja do
No vale maybe Niger no vale hakat kumima Niger ka kuyer pension no vale nible jabla.
tumda.
These opioids are highly addictive. Some take them as painkillers or to help them get through hard physical work. But many use them simply to get high. They can cause breathing problems and seizures. Overdosing can kill.
The main idea behind the interrogation is to find out who the suppliers are. The chief adjudicates the matter and someone is found guilty. The person is fined some amount of money.
And you know exactly medicine. So who is your supplier? You don't know the supplier. You see how you disgrace yourself to this low. Look at kids are watching you.
The man in yellow is just a small-time dealer. But who is at the top of this chain? These packets are all we have to go on. But they do offer some clues.
Hi, Srabi.
Hi, Aya. Good to see you.
Did you get the photos I sent you from the raid the task force did the other day?
Yeah, I have them pulled up on my computer now.
The product is called Tafrodol. The Ghanaian FDA have confirmed to me the product is illegal in Ghana.
Then I can also see that it says made in India. And if I zoom into the corner, there's a logo with an A and a leaf.
It's important to look into that and to find out who is responsible for bringing the product into West Africa. The task force is trying to catch the traders and smugglers, but it's the source that needs to be stopped.
So let me start there and I'll get back to you when I have more information. We know the drugs are made in India. Now we need to find out who is making them. When I put Tafrodol into a search engine, the top result shows that the brand name Tafrodol is registered to a company called Aveo Pharmaceuticals. When I look for Aveo Pharmaceuticals, their official website shows up, which actually details their products and manufacturing practices. It looks like a legitimate company, but it's the logo that really catches my attention. I found teenagers in Côte d'Ivoire are mixing Tafrodol with an alcoholic drink called vodka. And there it is, the same logo. Aveo Pharmaceuticals. It's not just Côte d'Ivoire. Even in Ghana, I found reports of Tafrodol being seized by the police. When I zoom in, there is an A which looks like the A from Aveo. In the same seizure is another product, Tima King. In the corner of that box, the same logo, Aveo Pharmaceuticals. We also send out researchers in Nigeria to see if they could find products with the Aveo logo on them. And sure enough, they came back to us with Tafrodol XX. We know the name of the company. Now we need to find the people at the top. An undercover operative agreed to go to Aveo's factory, posing as a businessman looking to supply opioids to Nigeria.
We're here to see Mr. Sharma. Thank you. Yes, sir. So nice to see you.
This is one of the directors of Aveo and the boss of this factory, Vinod Sharma. He takes them on a tour of the factory.
We came across like a shrewd businessman. He actually showed us that the factory is certified by the World Health Organization. That cemented the impression of the world-class standard. This before
Yes, yes, yes.
you guys are doing really massive operation.
5 million tablet.
Back at Sharma's office, it's time to talk business.
This is sample, pattern, capsule, tablet, everything is.
The packet of Tafrodol is instantly recognizable. It's the same brand found on the streets in Ghana and Côte d'Ivoire.
This is stronger than China.
This is Super Royal. It looks just like the drugs found in Lagos. This is Tima King, the same product seized by the Ghanaian police in 2024. Vinod Sharma displays many more products that look remarkably similar to those found by authorities across West Africa.
This is very powerful. Capsule, tablet is very powerful compared to the capsule. But red is very different. Double red. Double power.
Told me about how they came up with the opioids that they make as a reaction to government program on tramadol, which they used to also make. They also had a clear understanding of the global shipping business, the logistics of the operation.
By air is not possible nowadays because government is looking very strictly, and we can supply by the sea, but on other port, not Lagos, another Ghana and other. Otherwise, police can arrest, capture the container.
Clearly, he knew that what he was producing was illegal, but the fact that he was willing to talk about producing the opioids for me, branding the opioids for me, and shipping the opioids, to West Africa for me. All of that spoke to a businessman who was willing to take a lot of risk.
I can clear from our custom, means India. You can clear from your side. Every client working like this.
Sharma doesn't flinch when the team tells him who they're planning to sell the opioids to.
Do you have local market in the Nigeria? We can supply these materials.
So we do. And our plan is to sell to young people. 16, 17-year-olds, we find out a whole lot of products, right? And like you said earlier on, the product, Tafrodol, has really replaced tramadol in the market.
This item is Tafrodol is a painkiller. But suppose you can use the 2 or 3 tablets in one time, you can like this relax.
This is what the kids like. That's what they like. Gives them that high.
High.
High is high.
This is very harmful for the health. But
very harmful.
But customer cannot understand that. He wants relax.
He wants to relax.
Any medicine can misuse. This is very harmful for the body. But nowadays this is a business.
Nigerian journalists have been reporting on this opioid crisis for more than 20 years. Finally, I was face to face, not with some local dealer or transnational smuggler, but actually one of the men at the root of Africa's opioid crisis.
Catching market, slowly.
Okay. One of the men who actually makes this opioid and ships it into our countries by the container load. It's depressing watching someone who produces these opioids speaking about it and describing it simply as business.
In India, any drug made only for export must comply with the requirements of the importing country. Ghana's drug authorities told us this product doesn't meet their import requirements. By shipping Tafrodol to Ghana, AVO is breaking Indian law. Now we know who's making the drug, but how is it getting into Ghana?
Oh, this is it. You can see Samo's farmer written.
We found evidence that a company in the capital Accra has handled millions of the pills.
I'm not very sure that these guys are going to be friendly and whether they will allow us to film.
This is the evidence that led us to Samos farmer. Export data showing that Samos has imported millions of opioid pills from India through Ghanaian ports by a company called Westfin International. Looking into Westfin, we found the board of directors. Among them, a familiar name, Vinod Sharma. In Tamale, it's left for groups like the Citizens Task Force to tackle the opioid crisis. More of Vinod Sharma's Tafradol. That evening, they gather in a local park to burn the drugs. This task force in one small corner of West Africa is doing all they can. But as these drugs burn, production lines in India are churning out millions more. And the people who make them are getting rich on the profits of other people's misery.
For this remarkable undercover investigation on the opioid drug flooding West Africa. Gentlemen, I'll start with Mr. Jani. What are your thoughts about?
So everybody who is watching us now, this is a crisis, and it's been around for a long time. I think I've had a program on a GTV years ago where it was flooded around Nigeria. There was a gang there that was bringing it to Accra and all that. Well, what do we do? These are drugs that if you take it once, twice, thrice, the challenge is that it becomes addictive. And the addiction is that you constantly crave to have this drug.
So your body becomes dependent on it?
Yes, it becomes very dependent on it, which is rather unfortunate. So that is the problem. The problem is that it's very addictive, and it's at a certain stage will allow you to start hallucinating and getting deluded and saying things that you shouldn't be saying. And then sometimes you end up committing crimes that you didn't think you could do, like murder, like heinous crimes. So generally speaking, when I get clients, we get clients who come onto our units, the first thing you do is to take a blood sample in respect of, taking data and all that, to culture the blood and see whether there's any illicit drug within the blood. Mm-hmm. It gives us an assessment as to where this person is coming from and what is going on in his body. I think generally this, coca leaves in parts of South America, it used to be a stimulant. It is very common in the way they use it. But when it is concentrated in high dosages, then it becomes a problem. It is used in surgery. Some of these drugs are used in surgery for pain, as a painkiller. But you have it commonly, like we are saying today, that some drivers, we believe some taxi drivers, some people walking around, take it as if it's a joke. And peer pressure. Oh, try it. It will work for you. It's no problem. It will allow you to work all day, all night. You will sleep, and that becomes a danger. So we need to find out where it is coming from initially and how to stop it. The ports should be a place that we can look at, or even cargo shipment at the airport is another area that you can look at. What can you do? Also advise young men to refrain from drugs. They start with marijuana, especially the teenage, adolescent age, where peer pressure and wanting to try everything that is, you have friends who say, hey, Charlie, try it, this is nice. And then they keep, moving up, and by the time you realize it's become an addiction. It's a very sad story. You can't have a child looking after a child, going to school, going to university, and then eventually find that he's addicted to drugs. It's a terrible thing to happen to a child. So we must all fight this. To start from the borders, the customs, who monitor these things, and the shipment. Last understanding, the West Coast, the Guinea, the West Coast, the Gulf of Guinea has become an area for illicit drugs to be going through, gun running, and all sorts of things, because the Europeans have been able to choke them up. So if you get it from South Africa, down South Africa, and then down to West Africa, you are laughing all the way to the bank. We should try and monitor how the shipment of goods are moving these days, especially with the Gaza war that is going on. You find the Suez Canal is not the place where ships are going to. They're all going through South Africa, West Coast, and into Western Europe. So I think Kafui, this is what I have to say about drug addiction. It's such a challenge. Sometimes they say don't use the word problem, but it is a problem, and we must tackle it as a problem.
Okay. Before I come through to Professor Bruce, let me speak with former CEO of the Mental Health Authority, Professor Akwesi, who's on the line right now. Prof, Happy New Year to you. Excuse me.
Yeah,
I'm sure you're following this opioid wave that is sweeping through West Africa with these drugs coming in from India. What are your thoughts on this particular development following this BBC investigation?
Well, it's really very serious, and we should find a way of solving it. Already we have a lot of challenges, mental health issues, and we are even finding it difficult to solve them. Addiction problems, a lot, and this is going to add to that. And there is no doubt that if we do not solve it in the next 1 year, we may call it a boom of mental health issues, serious mental issues, not only mental, but physical issues too. And so it's very concerning.
What do opioids do to people who ingest them?
Well, to start with, opioid is an addictive drug. By its very nature, it tends to cause sleep. But it also has a euphoric effect, and that means it tends to make you quite happy, it tends to make you elated. And it is that elation which causes people to take more and more of it, and then they get addicted. And it changes the brain structure. And that is where the addiction comes in. It alters the brain function, makes the brain dependent on it once you get hooked to it. And then you want to go for more and more of it. It has effects on the heart, it has effects on the lungs, it has various effects. It can even lead to epilepsy, seizure, and various complications. And so opioid does a lot of harm to the body. But I must say that in this original form, opioid is also a medicine that is used with good purposes as a painkiller, very strong painkiller, which when somebody has undergone surgery and is in pain, we can use opioids or opioids to stop the pain. Somebody has sickle cell disease where he has bone crisis, and that's a very, very painful situation. You can use that to stop the pain. Somebody has had an accident, road traffic accident, and is in serious pain. You can use that to stop it. So it has very useful purposes. And somebody is going through a terminal illness where he's going through a lot of pain. He's about to die, but going through pain, and he wants to die peacefully. You can use the pain opioids to stop the pain. But then people misuse it and abuse it, and then we have serious effects.
Is it really linked to the plant opium?
It is. It eventually comes from the plant opium. Mm-hmm. But the raw derivative, the raw alkaloids, as the active ingredients, are then called the opiates. Mm. So from the opium, we have the opiates.
Right.
And when you alter the nature of the opiates, and then you synthesize, you take it through the laboratory, and you have the opioids. So the opioids eventually are derivatives from the plant opium.
Is tramadol an opioid?
Sorry?
Is tramadol an opioid?
Tramadol is an opioid.
Okay.
So tramadol, morphine is quite common. Mm-hmm. Tramadol, morphine. In fact, codeine is an opioid. Codeine, which is a painkiller. So those are the useful ones, laboratory-derived useful ones for medicinal purposes. So tramadol, codeine, but even then you realize that the tramadol normally you give to a certain dosage for medicinal purposes.
Right.
But when it's being abused, people double, triple, quadruple the dosage, and that is where the harm comes in.
What are the telltale signs of someone who is taking opioids?
To start with, the person, once, as I said, opioid is a very highly addictive drug. So if you take it in the moderate quantities and the dosages, it won't cause any addiction. It will be like any other normal person. But if you take it beyond the dosage that is required, which in this case you are using for recreational purposes, then you begin to be, you become addicted. Then the signs of addiction will then begin to show. You will lose interest in any other thing. Your interest goes into this thing alone. You become careless with your own life. You become
in getting somebody off opioids.
To start with, if it's an injectable you use for injection, that is more serious. The one that you are not injecting, you are taking medicines, you are using as oral medication, that is more easily treatable. But once it gets injectables, then that one you become highly dependent almost every 2 hours, depends on your extent of addiction. Almost every 2 hours or 4 hours or maximum 6 hours, you need a repeat of it. And that means that, and it's quite expensive. So all the money you have on you spend on it. And then after you spend all your money, then you go into borrowing and stealing from other people, who also go through a lot of things. And for that reason, that is why you need to go for more to stop it. And once you go for more, it stops it. But after the AA with this similar, they will need to have their game. I'm not saying they're not doing well, but given the information you're having, they need to have their game so that they can catch those that are in the system. And once they detect it, then of course it should be confiscated.
Professor Kosei, thank you so much for your insights and wish you a good day. Professor Osei, former CEO of the Mental Health Authority. Prof. Bruce.
That is a good body to evaluate.
Yes, opioids. You saw the documentary?
Yes. Any form of addiction is very serious.
Yeah.
Drug or even ordinary life things. Food, alcohol, everything. Even playing drug, people can become addicted to it. Food, people can become addicted to it. Too much of everything will obviously affect you. But in this case, Prof has gone into the chemical side and its effect and all that on mental health. My brother also have said it. I want to look at it from the biopsychosocial point of view. I want to start with this, that you see, it is very difficult for people who are going through addictive phase of their dependence on drug to be treated even using any form of cognitive or behavior therapy. Very difficult, unless you submit yourself to what you call aversive therapy, or maybe you submit yourself to be put to cell so that you don't have access to whichever drug you have become addicted to, including opioid. So we want to warn people that it is sad to find yourself in this situation. So we ask ourselves, who am I? I have parents, but I don't seem to be loved. They don't give me any attention. So to fill that void, which we call in psychology deprivation neurosis, you go and look for somebody who can supplement all these things to you. So if I come to you, Kafui, you're a weed smoker. For me to get that love that which I'm searching for and you are giving me, I have to maintain my contact with you and I'll begin to smoke so that you can carry me. That is what is happening. So we want to appeal to parents that it is very important that you become more or less somehow authoritative. You tell them why, but you guide them as to what to do. But if you're authoritarian, do this or this, your child can become adamant and leave the home. And when he leaves the home, he has to join himself to a company that will keep him and provide him with shelter, food, and all those things. That is where all these things is coming from. So if I join a peer group and they are smoking or using opioid, I have to use it in order to feel or feel belongingness. Otherwise, they will reject you. And you go back to the situation that your parents cannot provide. So parenting style is very important. We need to appeal to all parents that take good care of your children, especially when they come to the adolescent stage, which we describe as storm and stress stage. The least thing they want to find fulfillment, the least remark you make about them, the least rejection they suspect from you, they will leave you and go and find their own way. And so please, it is not easy to become addicted to opioid. You lose your consciousness, your memory system is affected, you cannot engage in learning, recall, or retention of whatever you learn. It affects your consciousness. You cannot do anything meaningful with your life again. You have lost your self-esteem, and when people look at you, they know that you are on drug. I have seen many number of patients. You feel pity for them because they have drawn themselves into such a state. Now we parents sometimes, it be to look for money, to look after our children, we leave them in the care of some other people. Those people, they cannot do exactly as you do as the biological parents. Sometimes it's not about giving money to your child. I am in UK, do this. They live this freestyle. And so when they have the money, their parents are not there. They will have to look for a parental substitute. That parental substitute is an adult who is engaged in this business, selling opioid, heroin, cocaine, and all those things. I find myself in there. So let's look at the parental background, and if we're able to do a good job as parents, our children will not be pushing this. I will not give birth to a child and expect that he should become a drug addict. I have to do everything to protect him. And our educational system also. If you cannot memorize, seek for the right answer, and make the grade, you become a delinquent child. Nobody likes you in that school. And so when you go, people are laughing at you. Those who are your seniors, they also become delinquents. You have to go and join them. What do? They engage in any antisocial behavior, and then you become a member of that group.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So there are environmental factors that are predisposing factors in pushing somebody into becoming a drug addict. So when we look at all these things, society too, we have to rise up. But blaming factories somewhere, for them, there are some people, they don't care. They are just to make money. They will tell you, I didn't force you to use my drug. You got it. Went voluntarily and did it. So if you take him to court, you are not going to win.
So we need to be tight here.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you dealt with addicts before in your work?
Yes.
What's it like? What's the worst case that ever you dealt with and you were able to help?
I've had clients who, my client base are people who commit heinous crimes like murder, arson, rape, and all that.
Wow.
Yes. So generally speaking, they are the type of characters where we need to immediately assess whether there's an influence of cocaine or any of these drugs in the blood. So I say the first few days on the ward, we need to track these things up. Rehabilitation is very, very difficult. You understand? And even you need special units to keep them in there. But almost invariably, drugs are smuggled into the unit by other relatives or friends, through pockets, through socks, through shoes. So, it needs management and a long-term management.
Don't you fear for your life when you deal with people who have gone through this?
Well, we are trained for that. We train for that. We train in conversations. It's a whole clinical work that you do with medicine and psychology and all sorts of characters, a multidisciplinary team.
We normally think of men getting involved in these things, but you have women also getting involved.
Yes. A drug addiction is in fact, a lot of pop stars that you see in the United States and in UK, in Western world, end up sometimes even killing themselves from overdoses. They get involved in these drugs and it elates them. And when you're depressed and you take it, it bumps your spirit up. It makes you feel good, the feel-good factor. But it doesn't last very long. It's like alcohol. Alcohol itself is a depressant. But when you drink it, it makes you a very happy man. But when it wears off, you find that you slug into a position of even sleeping or going to bed. So, difficult clients to deal with. Success rate for me is not very, very encouraging, but you need to keep working on them. And it's from the time of adolescent age, from SHS to university levels where...
So the critical times, right?
Yeah, those are especially, very critical times. Parents tend to think, my child is fine, there's no problem. Oh, he's all right. But when he goes back to the colleges and to the schools, smoking of weed and all this sort of things. So you need headmasters and psychologists to be at the SHS level,
talking to them.
As for the university graduates, they are too big for us. But at the SHS, catch them very young, start talking to them. The psychologist has to be on campus to educate and tell them how you can deviate from normal life and end up somewhere, even though you've planned your life to be a doctor or a psychologist or whatever. So it's easy for you to deviate from there. In fact, our mothers have a responsibility. They tend to talk to our children a lot, and they listen to their mothers too. Daddy hasn't got a lot of time. It's around all the place looking for money to look after the family. But mommy spends time, and it send their children to church, listen to the pastor, and that keeps them away. When you are 25 and 30, you're almost an adult now. These things are not too much of a problem. But the younger age are the most important dangerous areas. Yes,
Professor, you're a psychologist, clinical psychologist.
Yes.
Mr. John made the point about having psychologists on campus to talk to the kids. Is this something that we do in Ghana? Is it common in Ghana? Do we have psychologists in the secondary schools?
We don't even think about it at all. It's not our focus. It's not our focus.
But that's dangerous.
That's dangerous. So we need to introduce what you call preventive education or preventive counseling, where we go.
Well, you see, the sick bay provides medical care. You also have a psychologist there to talk to these children.
So it's not just physical ailments, but mental stuff as well.
No.
Okay.
You see, all schools, we call them mental institutions, where we have the cool and the aggressive. And so there might be a psychologist there
to handle things.
Otherwise, when their memory system is affected.
I wonder how many psychologists we even have in Ghana.
Quite a few.
Isn't it? But it's not enough, right? We need more. Before we go, this is something interesting that I've seen a couple of headlines here. Democracy Hub and CPP sue for the removal of Kotoka's name from Ghana's international airport. What do you think of this? I'll start with Prof. Woods first. Kotoka is in the news now. He's part of our heritage, whether we like it or not. CPP and Democracy Hub say, listen, we don't need the name of somebody who overthrew the first president on the name of our airport. First place you land to in Ghana, you see the man's name there. And so they are suing to drop his name from the airport. You think it's a worthwhile exercise? Or they're just wasting their time?
Oh, well, it's the same country we said, a country that does not honor her heroes. It's not a country worth dying for. For these people to take that action, I think they have some information which they must discuss with people.
Let me read their statement. It's dated 24th February, which symbolically was the day that Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown. Yesterday was the anniversary. On this historic day, Democracy Hub, in collaboration with the Conventional People's Party, has filed a lawsuit at the Supreme Court of Ghana seeking the removal of Kotoka's name from Accra International Airport. This legal action is part of a broader effort to correct historical injustice, challenging the glorification of unconstitutional rule and reaffirm Ghana's commitment to democratic governance. The 1992 Constitution of Ghana firmly rejects coup d'etat, making it a duty of every citizen to defend democracy against military interventions. However, for 59 years, Ghana has lived with the contradiction of denouncing coup d'etat while continuing to honor one of the architects of the first military overthrow of an elected government. The continued veneration of Lieutenant General Emmanuel Koshi Kotoka, the man whose actions helped overthrow Ghana's 1960 constitution and derail the country's democratic progress, is an unacceptable contradiction. The naming of Kotoka International Airport, enshrined under the General Kotoka Trust Decree 1969, is a state-sanctioned endorsement of an illegal regime change. It is time for Ghana to make a clear statement that it stands against unconstitutional rule, not just in rhetoric but in practice. Democracy Hub also expresses its profound gratitude to the team of lawyers at Merton and Everett LLP for their industry commitment and painstaking work in making this case possible. This lawsuit is the result of rigorous and painstaking legal and archival research. Democracy Hub calls on all Ghanaian civil society organizations, youth activists, and defenders of democracy to support this legal challenge. This is more than a court case. It is a national reckoning with our past and a reaffirmation of our commitment to the rule of law. The fight for democracy is the fight for Ghana's future. Signed, Democracy Hub. So those are the details in this their lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very, very fine. Personally, I don't know Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay.
Even The year he died, I was very small.
1972.
So when I grew up and became politically conscious, all that I heard about Kwame Nkrumah was purely negative. That he was Kankanyami, he was this, he was that. Everything negative that he started was broken down, and he didn't do anything for the country. He went and borrowed money to construct the Akosobo Dam. Everything, all that he did, they attached some kind of negative label to all of them. But I changed my mind when I bought this book written about him, the biography of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Right.
His picture is on that book. Reading that book, it was then that I felt pity for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. That he left power before he even started learning how to drive. And it was a woman who was teaching him how to drive a car. How can you sacrifice yourself to that point? But all these things, they are hidden in our books. So for that name to be changed, I am not against removing Kotoka or leaving it there.
So you are indifferent?
Yeah, I'm indifferent.
Okay.
Let's honor people who we should honor for the good things that they have done for Ghana. If this is the time we will realize that no, all that we say about Kwame Nkrumah as wrong was not the right thing, and this is the truth, and this is the reason why we want to resurrect his memory, let us do it.
Okay, so you are indifferent to the name?
I'm indifferent.
Mr. Johnny, what do you think? You think his name staying there is...
I would like to support the group that wants to have his name in there.
Okay.
All of a sudden, Kwame Nkrumah seems to be the McCoy. Ghana seems to be looking more at him now than before. Because after 50-something years, we now realize that this man did so much for Ghana. Building the Akosobo Dam, building the Tamahabo, the motorway, all these industrial hubs that you see around North Carnation and South what we call
industrial area.
The whole city of Tema was built by Kwame Nkrumah. It's an incredible character, not only for Ghana, but for the whole of Africa. And I suspect that going to live in the United States in America at the time where the Black Power movement was very high with Martin Luther King and all that, he saw how black people were being maltreated. He felt needed to come back to Ghana and do something to change Africa, so to speak.
So we agree with the name change?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We're now out of time. So what do you think? Let us know. 05555561034. Conversation is done. Still to come, conversations on challenges of digital content creation in Ghana with Jay and his guests. And then we're also discussing family welfare, custody and domestic violence in Ghana. Valerie and Mr. Ampal have that conversation in a short while. First Choice High Protein Recovery is a milk-based drink aimed at people like you. And you need to get a